From Koreatown, Los Angeles, thank you for tuning in to Ktown Social Club. This is where Koreans get together to talk about the issues that you really care about. It's a different kind of a program, talk program. We're the only show that offers perspectives from the far left to the far right, all across the political spectrum. And thank you for watching this video. Remember to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, and smash the notification bell. I'm Michael Kim, joined by
Michael Wan.
And today we have a special guest returning because there were some technical issues with the first recording where they were both in the studio. Now only one is in the studio. But first in the studio is Kathy Choi, the co-director of Women Cross DMZ. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Kathy.
Thanks for having us again.
And also on Zoom, live from Honolulu, Hawaii, is Christine An, founder and co-director of Women Cross DMZ. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, thank you for doing this again. I'm sorry about the last time. I hope everything is well in Honolulu. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, probably somehow the FCC took it or so. Yeah, somehow they infiltrated and got rid of it. The episode.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But we sent our equipment in for repairs today.
Okay,
so,
got it. Great.
Yeah. When are you coming back to LA, Christine?
I don't know. My next trip is, or speaking engagement is in Berkeley, at UC Berkeley. The Center for Korean Studies is hosting a screening of Crossings with Deanne Bourchier-Lim. So I don't know, but I hope.
When is that going to be?
It's September 19th. I believe it's right before Chuseok.
Okay.
So,
and you're going to be there too, Kathy?
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll go up to the Bay.
And last time you were here because you gave us, you had a UCLA event.
Yeah.
Fundraiser.
Fundraiser.
Viet Thanh Nguyen and Deanne Bourchier-Lim and Bruce Cummings, the historian.
Okay. Bruce Cummings, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also Kathy brought some shirts for us. Let's hold it up. From Women Cross DMZ.
It says,
Yep.
peace in Korea, peace in our lifetime. So this is for, this pretty much shows wanting Korea to unify, right?
Yeah, the design is, it's a kind of, has kind of some meaning. It's historic. It's, I don't know if you've seen the scarves that we wore when we crossed the DMZ from North to South Korea.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Here.
And so the northern part of the peninsula,
First
we
page.
got the sakdong from North Korea. You know, when the choguri, when children turn
Choguri,
one.
yes.
Yeah, the choguri. So I brought the choguri fabric from Pyongyang and sent it to South Korea to Mimi Han from the YWCA, and she paired it with the choguri fabric from South Korea.
Okay.
And we wanted to wear it because, you know, when children turn one, they wear the choguri to celebrate.
Like
they made
돌잔치,
it.
right?
Right. Yeah. 돌잔치. And to celebrate life, health, prosperity in the future. And that felt to us like that's the message that we want to wear, in addition to wearing all white for peace. But we wanted to also represent the future of all this great stuff that could happen if peace were to happen on the Korean Peninsula. So we took the design and then we modernized it.
Modernize this design to this T-shirt version.
For the
okay, it's
for
a little
the
bit
next
different.
generation. For Kathy's generation to take on the effort to achieve peace in Korea.
Kathy, you are Gen Z?
No.
Not Gen Z.
Millennial.
No, I'm not Gen Z. I admire them though. Millennial. Squarely millennial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is a drawing behind you also one of the mountains in North Korea? The Seoye?
No, it's actually from South Korea.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's actually from Jennifer.
Jennifer.
My sister.
Oh, Jennifer An. You mean,
Yes,
the
you
Kim
know.
Chang-jun,
Yeah.
former
Yes.
congressman's wife.
Yeah.
Yes, I know her. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when did you go to North Korea? When was that?
I've been a few times. My first trip was in 2004, right? I was like the height of the axis of evil.
Oh,
and
okay.
I was really concerned about that the U.S. would bomb North Korea next. So I went on a delegation to North Korea. And then I actually went to visit some North Korean farms with, her name is Pilju Kim-ju. She's a amazing Korean-American seed scientist. She brought a bunch of North Korean farmers to the Midwest in the 1990s. And really, she got the first contract with North Korea to help establish these cooperative farms or work with these cooperative farms in North and South Hwanghae, and to help them, kind of innovate their farming practices and to support them. And so I actually traveled with Deanne Borshi-Lim to visit some of the farms. So yeah, I've been to North Korea, I think 8 times.
Oh, okay. 8 times from 2004 until when was the last time? What year?
2015.
2015. Before the travel ban, right? Before.
2017.
Mm-hmm.
So I have actually seen North Korean women I think the last time I saw the North Korean women were in 2018 in December in Beijing, because we had a Northeast Asia Women Peace and Security meeting.
And you recommend everybody to at least go once to North Korea? How was it when you first went there back in 2004?
Oh, it was a very tense time. And my mother actually, this is her 20th anniversary of her passing, but she had cancer, pretty advanced stages of cancer. And, I wasn't sure if I should leave her, but she actually had prodded me to go. She said, you should really go to see the other part of our motherland. And we practiced singing a bunch of minhos together. And so I went because she really encouraged me to go. And I think it was really important to go at that time because things were so dangerous on the Korean Peninsula as they are now, but we can't go because of the travel ban.
Have you been, Kathy?
I haven't been, no. And I think that's, Crossings was so moving for that reason, to see the footage of women from all around the world.
Crossings is the documentary made about women DMZ.
Exactly, the inaugural crossing from North to South Korea. And it's also why we're doing all of the advocacy that we're doing around the travel ban, which is set to renew in just a few weeks. You mentioned it since 2017. I think people don't really understand that it's relatively a new U.S. policy. It hasn't always been this way, and been thousands of Korean Americans and others traveling and even living in Pyongyang for a long time. So we've all been fighting to lift the travel ban, to have it be changed, because it's actually North Korea is the only country for which U.S. passports are entirely invalid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since 2017.
Right, exactly. Since under Trump.
September, right?
End of August.
Oh, end of August.
That was because of the Otto Warmbier situation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, Otto Warmbier. Yeah.
Okay, so.
But Kathy's family, Kathy comes from a divided family, and I think that she also has a lot of important personal connection. I mean, your grandfather, right, fled North Korea.
Yeah.
And
from Hwanghae, the province that Christine just mentioned. And I'm very grateful. My Harabaji, when he was alive, he lived in Koreatown, actually. All my grandparents did. They've all passed. But he went back. And actually, when he went back, he learned his sibling had passed away. He had no idea for all the years, all the decades since he wasn't able to return. And my uncle was also able to visit and to meet his family members. And so through this work, my father also would love to go. And that's why this work feels very personal and very urgent, because with every passing year, we lose family members, we lose knowledge, we lose connection. So, it's a big part of my motivation in this work.
Yeah.
What's it going to take to lift the travel ban? Because, it is, there's this one Korean American lady who had been to the North a bunch of times, and then she used to be anti-North, and then she started going to South Korea and giving lectures and stuff, and then somebody attacked her there, like trying to throw a homemade bomb at her or something. And then she got arrested, and then she got banned from the country for a few years, and then she can't even go to North Korea either. It's like she can't go to any Korea now. So
she's abandoned both
She's what?
She's abandoned.
Yeah, she's
both
banned on the
Koreas.
entire peninsula. She can't go to anywhere on the peninsula. So what's it going to take? I thought it was just going to be a 1-year thing. I was supposed to go in I was planning to go in 2017. And then suddenly there was that ban. Although I had gone in 2014 one time. And I thought it might be 1 year. And then it became 2. And then 3, 4, 5. Now it might be extended to 8 years, right?
Almost.
So I don't know. I'm losing hope that like I'll ever be able to go back again. So, I mean, is it going to take? Do we need a? Yeah, what do we need to do? I don't know how to do this. It's messed up.
Because people were hoping when Trump met with Kim Jong Un that things would turn for the better, and down the road that the travel ban would be lifted. I don't think it was going to happen under Biden administration, you know. But some people, probably hoped that to be like Park Dae-myung. No, not Park Dae-myung. Some pro-North movement people said that they preferred Biden over Trump.
Okay, so what's it going to take for us to get rid of the ban? Then?
Well, I'm sure Christine will definitely have insight to add, and I'll just start by saying advocacy works. So actually the last time, the travel ban was renewed, but we saw 2 really important developments last year that was a result of Women Cross DMZ and a lot of our organizational partners, advocacy. We saw one, that the State Department added an explicit part on their FAQs on the travel advisories addressing family reunions. I mean, of course, it's
family reunions.
Family reunions.
Yeah.
So explicitly,
exactly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So heartbreaking, all of those photos and footage we've seen of just the very limited reunions that have been able to happen. And I think there's understanding that's wrong. It's a real human cost of this ban. And so they added an FAQ that named family reunions will be considered as part of.
So that would be an exception to this rule,
that
right?
you can apply for what's called a special validation passport. It's still not enough, but it's like the crack in this monolith wall. And then we also saw a change of the humanitarian, when you apply for a special validation passport, so all the humanitarian workers, you can have a 2-year term now, as opposed to having to apply
every year.
Yeah. Oh. So small, but those are real changes that affect people's lives. And so we think we have to keep plugging along and we have to keep pushing. And one thing I remember at our July conference last year at the George Washington University, one of the humanitarian aid workers said that they don't think they would ever see something like this apply. I mean, there's so many other factors when you look at Iran or Venezuela or Cuba versus North Korea. Of course, that distinguished the situation. But they just were saying offhandedly, I don't ever think the Iranian diaspora would stand for a ban like this. And it really felt like a call to action for Korean diaspora, how are we letting this happen?
So even back when George W. Bush said the axis of evil is Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, but there was no travel ban back then in 2004, right? But now it does. Do you think do you have any hopes that if I don't know, it's because Trump always talks that, Kim Jong-un is one of his friends and all that. Do you have any hopes, or do you think that's just all rhetoric and this travel ban is going to stay intact, sadly?
I don't know if that's for me, but
no, that was for you, Christine. Yes.
Yeah, it's Trump is a salesman. I have no idea, and I think the way that he handled the summit and the whole diplomacy or lack of diplomacy with the North Koreans, it's so hard to gauge, really. But I think Kathy's point about advocacy and the Korean American community, what is going to change and ultimately lift that ban is education, it's advocacy, but it's political will. And that's where I'd really like to see Korean Americans take more leadership. Soon after the Biden administration came into office, we organized a letter with a handful of Korean American leaders. Jessica Lee, she used to work at the Quincy Institute and now she's at the State Department, and Dr. Key Park. But Paul Song, who is a doctor in LA, he's married to Lisa Ling. A bunch of us got together and wrote this letter to President Biden, and it was 71 Korean American leaders to President Biden saying, you in your campaign promises, you committed to helping Korean American families reunify. And, you remember he wrote that op-ed right before the election that was in Yonhap, making that pledge and that commitment. But we've seen very little progress. And I think Kathy has been taking the lead on a letter that we are sending to the State Department later this week, signed by several prominent Americans, including actually one of the country experts on DPRK for Amnesty International, about this travel ban, which is unconstitutional. It is, as Kathy noted, incredibly rare that we can travel anywhere in the world to places that, are considered far more dangerous. And in fact, when we did some of the background research, we found that more Americans have been detained in places like Mexico and in Thailand versus in the decades history of Americans traveling, over 1,000 Americans traveling to North Korea without incident. I think there were less than 20 Americans detained in that period. And they included, some, faith-based people that,
Kenneth Bay,
the North Koreans. Right. And, unfortunately, the Otto Warmbier situation. But I think we have to ask, especially as Korean Americans, when so many of us, either because we are divided families or because we believe that it's our right to go and see the other part of our motherland, as my mother, who was lived during Japanese colonial occupation, lived through the division, lived through war, lived through dictatorship in South Korea, even urged me to go to North Korea, that we can't even do that because of the incident of one white American. And so I just think, where's our courage? Where's our, complete disdain for the situation? And I understand North Korea, I think, as you were saying, Mike, that you had planned to go in 2017 and then the ban, but then there was COVID, and North Korea has definitely had its borders sealed for many reasons that, many that we don't know. But, I think from the U.S. peace activist perspective, that this, the Biden administration sunsetting this ban would be such an important move to communicate to the North Koreans that the U.S. is serious about restarting talks. And, if we can't have the governments from North Korea and the U.S. dialogue, then my gosh, we absolutely need the people, families, to be able to talk, because as we know, the situation is just getting more and more dire and dangerous. And, right now we need more people to people connection, not less.
Right. But, when it comes to Korean Americans, most of them, they don't care anything about North. They don't even think about it. So, and then even if you talk about going there, the reaction you might get would be maybe hostile. Like, why would you want to go there? Why would you want to give money to a dictator? Like, how do you respond to something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll just say, I think Korean Americans, one thing that we, thinking especially for my generation, millennials, where we might not feel as much of a connection to, the peninsula, and we're now 2 generations removed from the war, colonialism, etc. But I think one thing we respect is our elders. We think about, so I think about someone like Joy Lee Gephardt, who is a divided family member. She's maybe late 80s now. And one thing she said last year, which really has stuck with me and almost kind of haunted me, actually, is it doesn't get easier. Time, it doesn't lessen the pain. It just makes it more worse. Which to me is
for her case, I can imagine.
Yes, her own divided family, and so when we think about what we owe to people and our elders, what we owe to our community members, also for our own development, knowing ourselves. What country has as much misinformation as there is in the U.S. as North Korea?
Most isolated country.
Most isolated and just ripe for just media misinformation. I mean, we saw what happened with the interview. It's where are we learning for ourselves? Who our other homeland, community members are. And as Christine said, we have to have our own people-to-people connection. And I will also just plug that we have a petition going. We have this letter going, and with written by our pro bono counsel, Steptoe and Johnson, which is a DC law firm. But we also have a public petition. So anyone who watches this, you can go to our website, Women Cross DMZ. You can find a way to take action and sign our petition, which also features photos of another divided family member who talks about his own family and what it means to be separated and how it's urgent. It's a really urgent task. We can't let it get to, God, 10 years, God forbid, we have to really mobilize and we have to spread awareness. Yeah.
Do you see any effort from the Biden administration to try to loosen this travel ban, or you didn't see any? You didn't detect any of them?
Well, last year we saw some movement. As I said, we had the longer term, the 2-year term of the SVPs, the special validation passport. We had the recognition of the importance of reuniting divided family members. And so, I think, just for younger Korean Americans, really the importance of you thinking about really living up to what our elders need, and then also for our own selves, our own self-development, knowing who we are. We cannot just assimilate. We are not model minority. We come from a homeland that has a lot of rich history that we need to learn for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are there conservatives who are against the travel ban and say, hey, that's anti-freedom or anything? Do you know of any Korean conservatives that are against it?
Well, we definitely know there are Korean conservatives in Southern California, Michelle Steele, Young Kim,
right,
who say that who have expressed support around family reunions.
Yeah, I think they also authored a bill regarding it, right?
Right, the registry.
The registry.
And so on that issue, it's obviously very clear, morality-wise, you want families, but how can they reunite? And during where the U.S. administration has such a hawkish approach when there's no lifting of the travel ban. So I think it's in order to get there, this thing that we all agree on, family reunions, we have to reevaluate the entire U.S. approach to the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah.
Can I just chime in here? Yeah. I think what's so invaluable about Kathy's, I think Kathy is very rare and special in her own way, but just her generation, I think there's this younger generation, my generation too, all of our generations, recognizing that we have just fragments of our lives. And, most of my family is from the South, from Chuncheon and Seoul. But my mother, I learned from Jennifer, my sister, that my Wei Harabuji was actually like a elected official in southern Pyongyang. So the fact that, we just don't know, because of our experience as immigrants coming to this country and that whole experience as forgetting where you come from, it kind of has a really deeper and more painful meaning for, I think, Koreans, because our country is still divided, and I think the fact that there are so many, yes, we have so many political divisions in this country, but when you add to the fact that there were some horrific things that happened during the Korean War, that many of our elders, our harmonies and haribujis, haven't been able to even talk about some of those horrific things. And then all the ripple effects of the war, of the red baiting. And I just think it doesn't allow for healing. It doesn't allow for our whole selves to be integrated. And we're missing a big part of our family's histories. And so I just, I don't really know what the impact is, but, Kathy did organize a Korea Peace Now Grassroots Network has a monthly call with our membership, and she organized a session. The last one was with an author. Her name is Jungwon Kim. She's writing a book about Han. And then Yoon Ra, who is a filmmaker, talking about kind of trauma and, releasing trauma. And we had these breakout groups. And I have to tell you, it was multi-generational, a really elder Korean American man, talking about the pain of division, of to a younger generation of I'm curious about my family and why my mother can't talk about what she endured. So I do think that there is something very reparative and very healing about trying to, bring closure to this war, but also like to be able to just see the other part of Korea. I've traveled extensively. I've been to Baekdusan. I've been to Kaesong. I've been to Nampo on the western coast, and it's a beautiful country. And I feel like, why shouldn't we be able to actually go and meet and see another way that Korean people, whether it's been forced or not, to be able to through the engaging, through the sharing and exchanging ideas, critiquing each other, challenging each other, that we can help form a more peaceful Korean peninsula. And, reunification is obviously off the table right now, but peaceful coexistence, why can't that be a thing,
Right. Have you considered or have you heard from, say, Korean American celebrities or entertainers or whatever who
influence
maybe want to get involved and be like, hey, end the travel ban, like rappers or actors or other influencers? Or do you think it's something that they tend to want to stay away from? Or like, are there any famous Korean Americans?
On that letter, we had Nick Cho. We know he's the social media guy.
Your Korean dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your Korean dad. He signed on to the letter.
Cho?
And
Nick Cho.
Nick Cho.
Yeah.
You're Korean. He has like 2 million followers on TikTok or something.
Mm-hmm.
There are prominent Korean Americans that aren't necessarily of the celebrity status, but they cut across from finance to medical to the arts, so there are definitely prominent Korean Americans that understand the need to lift this ban on basically Americans traveling to North Korea. But I think you're right. I think it is difficult for celebrities to step out of this because, the constraints, especially of South Korea being still under a national security law, and the fact that the war has never ended. It's just, if you're pro-peace, the way that the kind of Cold War dynamic and rhetoric still plays out, 75 plus years later, is if you're pro-peace, then you must be pro-North Korean. And that is really unfortunate, especially in a democracy like the United States.
Kathy, you were about to say?
Well, yeah, I was just that's kind of why we do the intergenerational learning and healing series, because I think a lot of people, I in LA know a lot of Korean American creatives who are generally progressive, liberal, especially now with Palestine, they're speaking up and saying free Palestine. Right. And I think it's because the Overton window has shifted on that foreign policy issue. But I think that we, at the fundraiser, we had Viet Thanh Nguyen there, who's, not a Korean American celebrity, but who has now interfaced with like Max and E43 and has been working in like the realm of Hollywood. And he's been outspoken about Palestine, and he was there with us on this panel with Deanne Borsche Lim and Bruce Cummings, like very progressive speakers about Korean issues. And one thing he said, which I thought was really important, was that it's not about naming like we're just victims and then there's an oppressor, and it's just this black and white. And I think for Korean Americans, too often it's just like North Korea is evil and US was the savior, and we are in the right place here by being in the US. We have to complicate the narrative, and it's hard to complicate the narrative when everyone around you is so traumatized. Like if you start questioning the thing, you go home, you talk to your family, and they're like, absolutely not. You cannot have that point of view, because they're scared of, communist oppression. We see Sazam, we see massacre after massacre in modern Korean history. So, and for me, having been to some of the most like elite institutions in the US, I saw so many Korean Americans who are so smart, who are so savvy in so many ways. I won't say brainwashed, but I will just say like they just won't. It's fear. It's thinking that my parents made all this sacrifice. Let me do right by them by doing the mainstream markers of success. But to me, the real success is like knowing ourselves, knowing our past, knowing our histories, and
And I think people who go to those elites and schools or whatever, they're probably more likely to want to be part of, America good narrative, North Korea bad.
they want to get approved by the mainstream. I think once you're there, I think because you hit it big in that institution, like what you just said.
Right.
But I hope. I mean, I wish the Warmbier situation never happened. Wish the Kumgangsan killing situation never happened. That also stopped South Koreans going to North Korea because my mom used to go there, every once in a while back in the day. But now she can't because So it seems like it always goes backward with the South and North Korea situation, and also U.S. North Korea situation too.
Let's look at the Otto thing, right?
Yeah.
So Otto Warmbier goes to North Korea. They say he tried to steal a painting or something, but I heard a different story. Like, you guys probably know what really happened, right? You've heard it.
I want to hear your story, Mike.
What's the...
He relieved himself on a portrait of the leader.
Did you?
Oh, you didn't hear that?
I haven't. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Is there
on a picture, I think it was either one of the Kims. Now, and that's something I guess they didn't want being brought up publicly because it's really embarrassing. So they just said he committed vandalism or whatever, try to steal something. But
so Otto went all the way to North Korea to kind of humiliate them.
No, I think he's just some young frat boy. Who just, he went with Young Pioneer Tours, and the head of Young Pioneer Tours, Gareth Johnson. I've heard stories. Anyway, they like to party. That group likes to party.
Oh, okay.
So they draw the tourists that like to
Western
party.
party style, right? Okay.
Yeah, and they have tours. I hear they even do like Passport Bro type tours in Southeast Asia. I've heard. Now the thing is, like, all these people who went to North Korea and have been arrested, these Americans, you notice none of them were ever tortured or murdered or anything. They were all sentenced to some time, but they were always released early. And then when they come out, they say, yeah, I wasn't harmed. None of them were harmed, right? So, and then they the media or whatever try to portray it as if North Korea took this sweet young innocent boy and tortured him and murdered him.
Warmbier had some kind of damage, right? Brain damage.
Yeah, but this is what I heard. He tried to kill himself or something, and the person that was watching over him didn't do his job correctly or something. So anyway, and then they try to help Otto, but then for like a year or however long it was, and they realized there's nothing we can do, so they decided to send the body back. I mean, he was still alive, right? And then once he arrived in the U.S., I guess they took him off life support shortly thereafter. But they made it as if North Korea tortured him, but even the doctor out here said, no, it didn't look like anything happened to him. But this is the narrative that North Korea tortured and murdered this American. Like, they've never done that before. What could they gain from that? And then even the thing that you talk about, the shooting.
The Kumgangsan situation, yeah.
I talked about that when I was in North Korea with one of the North Koreans there, and I go, hey, what do you think about that? So I'm just going by what he said. There was a woman there from a South Korean woman, and she went into an area that she wasn't supposed to go into. And then there was a soldier who saw her and told her to stop, but then she didn't stop and was running away or something, and he shot her. Now, I don't think you need to shoot, but first of all, why would you, I don't know why you would do something like that, but I would say what happens at the U.S.-Mexico border is probably a lot worse every day.
Or, LA County.
Well, that is true.
Just like 15 minutes, like conditions of incarceration here in the U.S. Yeah.
Right. But then all it takes is one incident. And they're just to shut everything down. One incident, some white boy who went there to be a nuisance. I mean, it's sad, but...
If you compare it to the southern border, it is ridiculous. Yeah,
I know. So why is it that
think about the amount of people?
North Korea is held to these standards that are like over here it's nothing, but over there it's like that kind of stuff really pisses me off.
Right.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, Mike, can I just chime in here that I really appreciate your kind of thorough being a journalist actually, and looking and probing into this Otto Warmbier case because. I think there were two pieces of really great journalistic research, and investigative reporting. One was the journalist from GQ, or it was placed in GQ after Otto Warmbier came back, that provided a lot of this evidence that you talk about. Yeah. And then the second is Dutch File, actually did a great documentary. But what I found so interesting was when the doctor who received Otto Warmbier I think she's like Asian American, and she actually noted that counter to the Warmbier's father's perception that his teeth, like they had pulled out his teeth and stuff, the doctor actually said for somebody who had been bedridden for over a year, it was remarkable the kind of care that was provided to Otto Warmbier, that even though he was in a coma and his body, he was incapacitated, that the North Koreans actually took great care to like turn his body to make sure that he didn't have bed sores and all these things. And it's not to like diminish what happened, what the true story is, but this is where why wasn't there more diplomatic efforts from the American side? And this is where we get back to the fact that when you have no engagement, when you have no political channels for diplomacy, this is where a bad situation can turn from a bad situation to, basically to death. And so I don't think it's a case for more kind of shutting down relationships, because again, back to the more than 3 decades of Americans traveling to North Korea without incident, only 20 Americans ever being detained. I actually took my daughter. I took my daughter when she was 18 months old to Pyongyang, and that's, I think, showed if you go and you are respectful, as you should be in every country that you travel to, you're respectful of their customs and their laws, and you just are a respectful, visitor to their country, that of course they're going to treat you with kindness. And I think, North Koreans are like a mirror. If you put forth like a hostile and an aggressive way towards them, that's how you're going to be received, just like any other human being. And so, yeah, I wanted to just thank you for noting those facts.
Was he arrested? Was he arrested during the Obama administration? Right. That was, in North Korea, Warmbier, right? That happened during the Obama era, right?
I think it was.
So I think what I thought was he didn't put enough effort. President Obama didn't put a lot of effort
to do
and to release him to Warmbier, or try to hit dialogues. He did not. Yeah.
But what makes him more special than Kenneth Bay or Merrill Newman or Matthew Todd Miller or any of the others? What makes Otto so special?
What I understand.
No, what makes him so special? Why would he have to put special emphasis on Warmbier over the others?
I mean, whoever it is, but Warmbier did get we're talking about Warmbier's specific case because he pretty much,
right. Well,
this situation pretty much instigated this ban.
7 year,
so that's why I'm talking about this situation.
Well, and I'll just also add, like we saw again with Private Travis King, who fled to the north, right? And
what happened
just last year, and he got released, and
he got released.
Again, another opportunity for the U.S. government to engage, to have some sort of public show of acknowledgement, of starting diplomacy, acknowledging that we are in a global society community and migration is natural and human beings will move across borders. As much as you will militarize them and enforce them, it will happen. And he was returned, through the diplomacy also of other third-party governments, but that was another missed opportunity for diplomatic engagement. And we saw that, again, as a safe return of a private U.S. Army official who fled voluntarily from South to North Korea. So it's just it is very frustrating to see missed window after missed window after missed window. But as an advocate and activist role, we have a role to play. We have the petition. We have education. Obviously, a lot of misinformation needs to be addressed head on. And so, thankful for your dialoguing and for having this space.
Yeah, because I'm raising it because even though it might be lifted again,
right,
when another incident, which is a possibility, right, that anything can happen, whether it's Kim Gang-san or whether it's an Otto Warmbier situation again, then it's going to get banned again. So I feel like there should be like preventive measures or some kind of dialogue going back and forth, or I feel like it's bound to happen again, even though it
maybe
does get
the
lifted.
Tour companies should, I don't know, screen better. Do you guys know Aaron Pan from Singapore? He's a close friend of mine. He's a Singaporean photographer. He's been to North Korea maybe.
Oh yes, I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah. He's a close friend of mine. We hosted a photo exhibit here of DPRK stuff. All the pictures he took, and he did some lectures, and tons of people came, and it was really great. But he told me that when he was on a trip there, they went to the mausoleum where the Kim 1 and 2 are, and I was there too, and that was, man, security was pretty heavy there.
Intense, yeah.
And you couldn't take your phone or anything, right? But I guess one of the I guess the race doesn't matter, but one of the white tourists decided to sneak a GoPro like on their ankle or somewhere, even though they were specifically told like, hey, this is a very high secure place. Don't do anything. Please don't do anything, But some dude, he just had to do it, and he got caught. And then what happens? Well, first of all, the tour guide gets in serious trouble for not properly checking or whatever, and then it ruined the trip for everyone. But I know there's always going to be people like that who are going to be like, let me try to find some secret. Let me find the real,
Who gets joy out of breaking the law, right?
Or they're trying to expose something.
It's like the thrill
of it.
All of the YouTube shorts we see. There's like a whole cottage industry of like exposing the real
Especially
North
nowadays,
Korea.
they risk their lives to take photos and stuff, in these cliffs, right? So
about 8 years ago, there was a photographer. He was either from Germany or Poland. And he went to North Korea, he took some pictures. He just went on a regular tour. He took some pictures, put some dark filters on it or whatever. Suddenly, he's like appearing all over in the media, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, this photographer went to North Korea. Let's see what the North Korea they don't want you to see. And he just took random pictures as you're driving by on a bus. You see some people. And then you make it look dark, not when the sun is out.
It's
and
clickbait.
then he said, and all his like speculations. I found him on Facebook, so I messaged him. I'm like, hey, man, well, what are you doing here? And then I could probably find it if I go into my messages, but I got him to admit that, I just don't like communism. I want to make them look bad.
Yeah. Well, isn't there like deep...
No, he just flat out said that.
Yeah.
Like, there is a deep Orientalist, anti-communist undertone to everything, right? About North Korea. Yeah. It is infuriating.
And then it's even worse than when it's your fellow Koreans who, perpetuate that kind of nonsense and then see you as some kind of, I don't know, crazy enemy or something. Or, Yeah, it's kind of... So I kind of just... I used to be really, like, angry and loud. Like, I used to be really crazy. But over the years, I've calmed down. And it's not like I'm pro-North or whatever. It's just like, this is wrong. This is a lie. Why do you, like, I'm not saying you got to support them, but, man, at least know what you're being lied to about. And that's the hard thing is to convince people. Like, even smart people I know, even though they didn't go to Harvard or whatever, but people that are very reasonable and smart and try to investigate, they're just like, no, you're crazy. Like, they don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I know.
So that's why I kind of gave up. So when I see someone like Christine, who's been doing this for a long time, I'm like, I don't know how you have the patience or
battling.
Like,
Well, can I just share a really sweet story of when we went to North Korea in 2015, we brought, there was Eric Talmadge, who was a great reporter for AP. He was the bureau chief of AP in Pyongyang. And then we got David Gutenfelder, speaking of images and portrayal of North Korean everyday life. And I think David Gutenfelder was one of those photojournalists that actually helped to humanize the North Koreans. And so he was one of the people that we were able to bring on the delegation with us. And that's because he had been to North Korea like 40 times or something. But it was in the opening dinner. And I remember her name was Kim Jong-suk because that's Kim Il-sung's wife's name. And so Kim Jong-suk, she was this older, she was like the head of the Korean Committee for Peace and peace, overseas peace. And anyway, she was kind of the woman that kind of oversaw the proceedings and the welcome dinner. But I remember that everything was a little bit awkward, and the fluorescent lights in Pyongyang and the hotel, it was all just a little bit weird. But she at one point beckons David Gutenfelder to come. And this guy was the National Geographic photographer, and he was also the AP photographer. He had spent a lot of time in war zones. And so anyway, they beckon him to come, or she beckons him. So he comes, and he's really nervous, and he says, "Oh," and she says, "I know who you are, and I want to say thank you." Mm-hmm. And he said, she said, for basically humanizing our people to the world.
Wow.
And he was, really touched by that. And he said, well, I have, there are these moments that really, as a non-Korean, helped me really understand the situation on the Korean Peninsula and how Korean people feel. And one was, I shot the meeting between Madeleine Albright and Kim Jong-il. And that was a really historic moment. I felt very honored to be there to actually see American and North Korean diplomats make steps towards peace.
You were there.
The other one was, I wasn't there, but this is him recalling how these experiences helped him understand both North and South Korea. So that was one meeting. The other one was divided families and the reunions, and to just see the incredibly heartfelt grief that Korean people feel about being divided, and especially families. But then he said the third thing, which was, I was like, this guy is so brilliant, which is how he's been able to go back to North Korea 40 times. But capturing the protests outside of Pyeongtaek or Yongsan, of South Korean people against the U.S. military, whether it's the crimes committed. You may remember Yoon Gung-hee. She was the woman that worked outside of the Kichichon, and the guy, Sergeant Merkel, brutally raped and assaulted her, and she was found dead with a Coca-Cola bottle shoved up her uterus.
Wow.
And that is what triggered all these massive protests in South Korea against the U.S. bases. And the kind of the lack of accountability because of the SOFA agreements between the U.S. and South Korea. But I just thought, wow, this is somebody that is an American, that is a journalist, that has really sought to really understand the full picture of the Korean Peninsula, from the divided families to the importance of diplomacy to actually the militarization of the Korean Peninsula as a result of this unresolved conflict. Anyway, that it was a precious moment for me, and how important it is to have people like the David Gutenfelders who have traveled to North Korea and helped humanize and portray everyday North Korean life, because they are like us. They want the same things as all of us.
Yeah, I find it, so when I see white people who have been to North Korea and they sound supportive, I find my fellow Koreans who are anti-North are more willing to listen to white people about North Korea than me. And
yeah.
And then some of them, they share
perspective, right? Probably they might think that it's coming from a different perspective. No, just saying.
Or they're just well, he's probably more valid because he's white. I don't know, but
yeah.
There's a guy from Switzerland, Felix Abt. He wrote a book, Capitalists in North Korea. He was pretty active on Facebook groups, not defending them, but just correcting all the wrong stuff. I think he started some pharmacies or something in North Korea, but because of sanctions, they couldn't get stuff they needed, and they were trying to get cold medication for North Koreans because the winters are really cold, and they weren't able to do that for them. That was just one example, but he's one. And then there was a Greek woman. She was part of World Food Program. She lived there for about a year. She could go anywhere she wanted within Pyongyang, and she was defending. And there's several of them like that out there. And when I do see them, I'm very glad to see that, because it's usually the other way.
There's also a woman on TikTok, which I'm forgetting her name now. She's some influencer, and I was sitting with some Korean Americans a filmmaker and an anthropologist, an anthropology PhD, and they were saying that she was the first one who started to, and the word they use is like melt away. She just made these TikTok like informational things kind of about generally like progressive leftist issues. And she was saying she brought attention to the travel ban, and she made the comparison with the hypocrisy of US imposing that kind of ban with the conditions of incarceration here. And they were saying that she was the first one to start chipping away at their understanding of North Korea.
Do you know her name or what any part of the name?
I'll look up after. Yeah, I'll try to see.
I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, I'll share. But I'll also
we're not on TikTok.
Yeah, we got to get on TikTok, right?
Yeah, y'all should get on TikTok. Although it is brain rot, it really is like brain rot. But I will also say just one other story that I think also is interesting for LA. It's a person I mentioned the last time who I was here, Diamond Kim, who immigrated here before the war during Japanese colonization and was here in LA and was doing Korean independence activities and was helping run the Korean independence newspaper and went to USC and studied geology. And when he was hauled in front of the House Un-American Affairs Committee, which was, the notorious congressional body that did the witch hunt of all communists, which is why probably so many of Korean Americans you talk to just have a block against hearing anything that is seemingly pro-North. And when he was asked by congressional representatives, which part of Korea are you from? And he said, extreme North. And they asked, like, what city, how do you spell it? And he said, it's not in your language, so just write it however you want. Wow. And so it's just like learning that about him. When I learned about him in law school, I was like, my God, he was like 10 minutes from where I went to church in LA. The history is so proximate, actually. And that was before the division. He was here before there became North and South Korea. And so the Gyopo diasporic connection is actually, there's a long legacy of it that we have inherited. And I think learning that has empowered me, meeting Christine. I don't know if y'all know, but I just DM'd her, speaking of social media.
Cold message her.
The 21st century version of like cold call. I just was like, the things she's saying, like I need to be around that. And so that's all feels very emboldening.
But among your peers in school, you were the only one who was interested in the North Korean cause or, 통일.
There's some.
There's
some, but I think the sort of progressive, just being a public interest attorney is kind of isolating on its own. And then within that, I have found that Korean American or Asian Americans who care about internationalism, even though we know that the divide is just a false one and they're actually so intertwined, like anti-Asian hate is rooted in U.S. empire, as a lot of us have thought. And Christine has an article in The Nation, and we talk about this a lot, that they're so interconnected. But making that connection between, Asian American progressive issues and things like Korea Peace, that's something I feel like it's right there. People of conscience recognize when something is wrong. Like you're saying, it's just wrong. But it's getting past all of that, communism, trauma.
Yeah, the communism thing is like probably the most taboo thing, right, to talk about in America, I think, right?
For Koreans, yeah.
Even like the media, it's very rare to see a communist point of view or...
there seems to be a growing communist movement in the U.S. I don't know if you heard last week, a new American Communist Party just formed with all these social media influencer dudes.
ACP.
Like, one of them has got like 2 million followers.
Jackson
He's like
Hinkle.
Very clean-cut looking white boy. He looks like a Republican, but
he's a MAGA communist, right?
But he's a communist. He started this American Communist Party, and he calls it, I guess, MAGA communism or something.
He's written as they call him MAGA communist because he's a communist who kind of supports the MAGA agenda.
It seems to be growing. I don't know what's going to I guess because it's already it's getting so horrible now already under capitalism or whatever, that people are like just looking at communism anyway, saying, I know it's evil and bad, but let me just look at it and like, wait, okay, maybe I should look into this more. I don't know. Not that I'm a communist, but yeah. So I don't know what my point was. Communism is growing, it seems to be.
Because people are interested, like Jackson Hinkle's case, I think, in mainstream media, they consider certain topics like taboo that you shouldn't even talk about it. So I think there are growing number of people on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram where they want us now know about it. Regardless, it doesn't mean that they agree upon it,
right?
But they want to know about it.
I think we are seeing a sea change with respect to understandings of U.S. war crimes for decades. I think as we are talking about Palestine and people are really making the connections of, Israel being the largest recipient of U.S. foreign military aid since World War II, how much billions we send every year to Israel. And then they make the connection to, we have a near $1 trillion military budget. What are we doing with that 800 bases? I think we are seeing a mass, awakening, right, of anti-war.
Exactly. I think they do see that.
And then with that, how can you not sort of talk about
and all the money that we spend to Ukraine, people complain about it, but then actually there were politicians, I think even Senator Tim Scott mentioned it, that all those money you don't have to worry about. It's all going back to American military companies, Raytheon, all these.
Yeah. Imagine all.
But what about the think tanks that promote this kind of U.S. exceptionalism and, in the Korean case, perpetual war? And I think the indictment of Sumi Terry, kind of working on behalf as a foreign agent for South Korea, is very interesting. And I hope it will expose the amount of money that is being channeled from South Korea into trying to sway Americans' perceptions of the Korean conflict. Anyway, I think it's really interesting. And then there's obviously the flip side of it.
The Sumi Terry situation.
Kathy. Yeah, Kathy as a civil rights lawyer. Can attest to the flip side, which is, what does it mean now for Asian Americans to be working in the U.S. Foreign Service? I think it could have very deleterious effects because of the deep history of Orientalism and yellow peril in this country. To your point, Mike, about why is it that, people are, especially Korean Americans, are more willing to hear from a white expert versus a Korean American expert?
All right. Okay. We only have a few minutes left, but for Korean Americans who want to get involved in peace or lifting the travel ban or whatever it is, if you're not a woman, what organizations are there that we can? I know there's a bunch. Now, there's like Norutor. There used to be one called Subak. I don't know if they're still around. Is there anything else? Like, what else can Koreans do?
Women Cross DMZ.
This is all women, right?
Well, it's a feminist ethos, but our campaign and grassroots network is called Korea Peace Now, Grassroots Network. And there we have many non-women identifying folks. And we have, veterans in the Midwest, we have humanitarian workers, we have Korean Americans across generations, across gender lines. So we meet every month. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can follow us on social media. We have, amazing political education. We have membership orientation. We recently had Mark Seng-Putterman, who talked about the histories of Asian American anti-imperialist organizing. We talk about the long history of Korean American civic organizing, like, Young Koreans United and Nakasek, all of these like Korean American organizations. We have speakers from all different industries. And as Christy mentioned, we've started the Intergenerational Learning and Healing series. So we had a psychologist with a religious background and also shaman, Helena Solholm. So she is a trained, psychologist, and she also has a degree in theology. She has said her chasing after all of these accolades from academia were sort of like a trauma response for her. But she came and she spoke with Joseph Hahn, who's also a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, not a woman. And they all talked, they did these like small groups with our grassroots network to talk about our histories and how we can advocate for Korea. And we have an advocacy week every year where we do legislative advocacy for the Peace of the Korean Peninsula Act. And that's with a whole wide sector of all different kinds of people in the U.S. So, yeah.
So
become a politically active Korean American and also, non-Korean Americans, and help us build the political will for peace.
Anyone who wants peace. Okay, cool. So Korea Peace Now, Grassroots Network. Yeah. By the way, I just want to throw in a thing about a lot of Koreans who are supporting Palestine now, but still anti-North.
Yeah, there's a lot of them too, right?
Well, because they haven't fully gone the full... Wait till they hear that North Korea has never recognized Israel as a legitimate state, and Kim Jong-il even had a Palestinian foster daughter, right? Jindaleh, which means azalea.
Did you know about it, Christine?
Did you know about this? No. Okay, I guess. Okay, never mind.
Well, I think it's like the meme, right? You know, the one with the brain growing?
Yeah.
Where it's like level 1, 2, 3.
Right.
There's like level 1, there's racism in U.S. society and like white supremacy. Level 2, like, the U.S. like military industrial complex is a problem. Level 3, there's like the true internationalist understanding of how we should be in this world, which is to be... I think that is one axis of entry. Sorry to use the word axis in this, but that's one axis of entry. But then there's the other axis, which I think is the addressing U.S. like actions around the world and around the globe, and understanding what the U.S. did to Korea.
And for me, it was really a shift from, in my younger years, being libertarian, more right-wing, to becoming less right-wing, but not Democrat. I really never really liked Democrats. And then kind of jumping from that to more like radical left.
So you were right wing and then jumped to...
Yeah, because, I don't know, for me, I always saw the problem with Democrats. But anyway, then I saw the problem with the right, and then I just kind of jumped. And I don't
like
know.
You're powered by Han.
Because the Democrat is more mainstream. They control the mainstream media and stuff, right? No?
Well, I was always watching conservative media. They were, radio and Fox News and all that. But, and then I think it was like, even though I was becoming radicalized, I was still anti-North. It was just, I started learning about North Korea really from like 2004. And then it wasn't until like 2014 or 2013 when it really changed. Because I was so super America, but over the years I became less and less pro-America.
Agent Orange and all these kind of...
well, and then Libya really pissed me off.
Yeah.
And then Syria, they were about to go in 2013. That really...
Iraq
that was
too,
the
right?
last...
Iraq.
Yeah, but at the time I supported it, like most Americans. And eventually got to a point where it's like, North Korea is still bad, but U.S. is so evil. And then some shifting and like seeing things not like with new information, but from a different angle, I guess. I was able to change my perspective and like, holy shit, like, is it possible that... Should I say this? No.
Is it
possible that the baddies were here, like came from here? And I'm like, oh my God, like, well, it makes sense. I mean, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Vietnam. What makes Korea so special, right? What makes it different than the other? And then that helped me kind of flip a switch.
Right.
But, before we go, I saw something on Twitter. It was really funny. I mentioned it to you this morning, but so I guess somebody timed how often Kim Jong-un gets a speech when he talks. It's like every 4 minutes, right? On average, right?
Gets a speech when he talks?
When he was talking. And
the standing ovation.
Standing ovation.
Wait, what did I say?
The applause.
Did you say standing
you said
ovation?
speech.
Like, you get a applause. Yeah, right. Applause. So guess how much Netanyahu got 4 times more in the U.S. So Netanyahu gets more in the United States than Kim Jong-un, the dictator, supreme leader, gets in his own country. So I don't know what that says about this country, but anyway.
Probably says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So womencrossdmz.com or org.
.org.
Yeah.
We're 501c3.
Yeah. womencrossdmz.org. You can also search for, Korea Peace Now Grassroots Network.
Cross DMZ.
There are lots of Koreans, more and more every day, joining this movement. And really, I see it as, because South Koreans are kind of restricted by their laws.
Yep.
It's really up to Korean Americans, I think. We're in the belly of the beast. It's really up to us to, get this thing going. So, we have our show here. Christine and Kathy have their organization. They're doing their thing. There's other people doing their thing. Let's all work together and, help save our country. At least make it peaceful. So Hey,
all right.
Yeah. How about Michael?
Okay.
I'm sure you have some.
No, I mean, like, I've been following Christine. I told you on the last, can we say last episode, even though it was
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so it was like 10 years ago when she gave a passionate speech regarding North Korea situation at UCLA with Bruce Cummings there, I think. So, you know, I think a lot of people are changing their perspective because they realize that most of the things that they learned about are from mainstream, you know, mainstream media, whether it's mainstream textbooks, you know, and I think people should just get informed, keep on getting informed all over, you know, not just one, you know, one angle, but all like 360 angle, and then, you know, reach your own conclusions. That's all I have to say.
So you don't have any opinion, though?
About what?
Okay, never mind.
About what? About
We're
what?
witnessing really.
About the travel ban, for example.
Yeah, the travel ban, I think I already said, you know, I mean,
It should be lifted.
wish that it was lifted, but I worry about, even though it
Right,
gets
the
lifted, there's going to
conditions.
be another incident that will happen, and then it will get, you know, immediately.
Yeah.
You know, so there should be some kind of like measures, something that can be travel ban proof. Yeah,
Well, I think we need a
that's
sea
very
change.
detailed,
Yeah.
because I think it's bound to happen again. That's how I see it, because there, like you said, you know, back in the 2000s, America called North Korea one you know, axis of evil. Iran, Iraq, North Korea. So I think, especially regarding North Korea, which in the Western media we call it the most isolated country in the world. I wish that I do want it to be lifted, the travel ban to be lifted ASAP. But I think there should be some preventive measures so that this
conditions.
doesn't happen over and over again, back and forth, this kind of thing. Yeah.
Well,
Hey, there's a prominent Korean American conservative that's calling for lifting the travel ban. So that's great news.
Yeah, I mean,
this guy, yeah.
No, I even said I wish that Trump makes some deal with Kim Jong-un on if he wins, you know, because I don't think that it's going to happen on the Democratic side, because I think they're more aligned with the establishment.
You should make a Korean video in Korean for your conservative audience supporting the ending the travel ban.
Yeah. I mean, I would, but I think that doesn't mean, like the current administration, the Biden administration, I just don't have a lot of trust with, you know, in them.
Well, I mean more about changing the minds of your followers.
No, I think what I give credit with Trump was he met with Kim Jong-un. Nobody else would have, you know, and so I think I wish that they strike not just lifting the travel ban, but talk to each other to make some kind of, you know, economic, you know, treaty or any kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I would want that to happen.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Any final statement, Christine?
No, it's always a pleasure to be on the show with you guys. Thanks so much for having us on.
Okay, thank you for joining us. How about you, Kathy?
No, just thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, womencrossdmz.org for more information. Thank you to Christine An for joining us via Zoom, and Kathy Choi for coming in the studio today. Hope to see you all again soon. And, you know, Korea Peace Now. One Korea, right?
This time it's really
Korea
special.
Peace Now.
we made it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear if this is also...
You know.
But all right. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Thank you.
this has been Ktown Social Club. Michael Kim, Michael Won here. We'll be back next time with more. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. And follow us on Instagram at Ktown Social Club. Send us your comments, your hate, whatever, your love. Okay, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wow.
You should check whether it's recorded.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much, Christine.
Anyway, you're so knowledgeable, Michael.
Oh, I was much more knowledgeable 10 years ago. I forgot
Really?
most of it.
Really?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I found younger
I didn't know that you
people.
were a right winger, though. Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
find the TikToker.
I was I completely forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, what was that, Christine?
Younger people. You were saying something
Oh.
about younger people.
Yeah, I kind of stopped doing what I was doing when I saw there were much younger people with more energy who were out there. I said, I don't need to do this anymore. Yeah.
Okay,
I know. I feel the same way too.
her name is Madeline Pendleton.
Madeline
Have you heard of her?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
her videos have like
Madeline
170,000
what?
Pendleton. Yeah.
Like the Pendleton base.